Hello and welcome to this tutorial on how to get started with Adobe Premiere. Now, we've talked a little bit about Premiere and how it works, and it's a great program, but today we're going to talk about getting started, creating yourself a new timeline, and of course then bringing in some footage for the first time, either by capturing or importing. Okay, let's start off first with something really simple. We're just going to load up the program. You can just open it up. I like to use the Spotlight, and I'm just going to type in Premiere and open it up. Now, when you open up Premiere for the first time, it's going to ask you, a couple dialog boxes will come up here. And the very first dialog box that will come up is going to ask you, is it a brand new project, or is it an old existing project, or do you need to get some help? Well, we're going to create a brand new project for the first time. And I'm just going to have to drag all of these up here a little bit higher. And then it's going to ask you where you want to save your scratch discs, or what you want to call the project. And in this case, I'm going to call the project PD for professional development for November 23rd. Okay, and I'm going to hit OK. Now, we're going to create what we call a timeline or a sequence that is going to be in this project. Now, you can have multiple timelines or sequences, but in our case, we're just going to have the one for today. And we just want to be able to take a look at some of our footage, so we're just going to type in here. The name of the project is going to be Master Timeline. Okay. And on the left-hand side of the screen here, you're going to notice there's a whole bunch of different codecs. Now, if you remember in our lesson in class on codecs, compression, decompression is the full term that is used. And this case, we're going to choose a codec that we're going to work with. Now, you're using standard definition. There's different codecs, and if you're using high definition, there are other codecs. And there are some codecs that we use that actually cover both high definition or standard definition, much like the AVC HD codec here, which can record in 1080i or 1080p or 720p. It actually can go down in some cases 480i as well, which is standard definition television. In our case today, I am okay with us doing something in digital video, which is standard definition, and we'll go standard definition NTSC for the North American standard that we use here, and we're going to choose widescreen 48 kilohertz because in video we want to try to keep everything at 48 kilohertz because that's what most video is used in today. So we're going to do that, and we got a name, Master Timeline, and I'm going to hit OK. Now, once you've done that, it starts bringing up the Premiere windows. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up this window here in full screen, and you can see all the main windows of Adobe Premiere. Now, just to run through them again, of course, you have your timeline here on the bottom, and you can see the master timeline that we typed in is now here at the top of this timeline. And we can have multiple timelines that we're working with. So, for example, in one timeline, we may have the opening sequence for a movie. The second timeline may be the very first scene. The third timeline we may have actually may be where we take all the footage from both those timelines and combine them together, putting one timeline in first and then the second. So it's a really unique program because you can have a lot of things open at once. Your toolbar is here on the left, and right above that is the media browser, and that's where also the effects controls will be for doing stuff like transitions and stuff. Now, you also have an effects control here in your preview window, and that's where if you double-click a clip in here, it will actually pop up in here before you put it into the timeline. So you can actually work with it, edit it, and do some cool stuff. Once you've done that, you can actually drag it down here into the timeline, and it'll pop up here in your program window. So this is like the master canvas. This is where the artist is actually putting his final brush strokes on the painting. So as you make changes here in the bottom part of the screen on the timeline, it will reflect here in the actual video that you see on the screen. Now, today we talked about actually bringing in footage, and one really cool thing about Adobe Premiere is that you can actually use footage in its native codec. So what I'm going to do is, we shot a hockey game here the other night, and it's under MJHL Hockey on my solid state drive. And I'm going to go to November 17th, and I'm going to look into the Blackmagic card where we recorded it. And I'm going to open it up, and as you can see here, a whole bunch of video clips just popped open. I'm going to go to the very final one, which is Program for the Blues and the Blizzard. And I'm going to double click on that, and as you see here, as it opens it up, it's going to pull up here in this window. Okay. And what I'm going to do is find the very beginning of it here, and the audio, as you can hear, is kicking in. This is a broadcast my company did just a few days ago for the MJHL game between the Blues and the Blizzard. And as you can see my face there, and then our color and play-by-play. You may recognize Peter Young there. He stepped in and helped us out. And we did a pre-game show with all the fixing, so it was a pretty neat experience that we had. And I'm just going to find an out point to work with. Hit O for out, and now I can drag this down. And it's as simple as that to bring in your clips. Now, sometimes when you bring down the video for the first time, you're going to be asked something. And this thing, it's going to pop up as clip mismatch warning. You can see it there in the center part of the screen. And it gives me two options. Keep the existing settings, which is the timeline that we set to DV/NTSC 48 kilohertz, or I can actually make it into whatever the clip is shot in. So if the clip was in, for example, H.264, AVC HD, DV/NTSC, when I drop it down, it says, hey, maybe you made a mistake when you made that first timeline. Maybe you want to change it to what the clip is. And in that case, it's probably a good idea because this was shot in AVC HD, and that type of codec would have to be re-rendered out, which could take hours to do to bring in this 12 minutes of video. So let's be smart. Let's use that instead. So I'm going to change the sequence settings to match that of the video clip I just put in. And just like that, it pops into frame. Now you may notice one other thing here as we take a look at it. It's actually now shot in a different style. In fact, if you take a look at the screen, it's 4:3, but you can see he's very tall and squished. It means the aspect ratio is not correct. So I'm going to click down at the clip down here and go into Effect Control, call up the Motion tab, and go all the way down to Scale Width. And it says here Uniform Scaling. Well, we don't want it uniform scaling. We want to take that off. And we want to make an adjustment. Now, as you see here, I can stretch it out. I can make it taller, wider. Actually, in this case, what we need to do is we need to make it a little bit wider. And you can see what happens. He starts becoming normal, but we lose part of the screen. So what we're going to do is we're going to get it just to the edge there. And we're going to drop the height and see what that does this time. And when we drop the height, oh, look at that. Now he's starting to look a little bit more normal. And it's a 16:9 screen. So that is exactly what we want. And what we're going to do here is we're going to take a look. Yeah, we're happy with that, and it should be good to go. Okay, next thing we're going to do is I'm going to show you guys the other option. Now, we talked about bringing in footage. You can import it as well. It's an option here. It works the exact same way. We go to File, Import, pick the clip that you want, and hit Import, and it'll pop up under a new tab here in your browser. So I'm going to import the file. Oh, correction, sorry. It actually imported that file at the very top here, and now it is ready to go. Actually, correction, no, sorry, it did it here, the Project PD November 23rd. So now I can grab this clip, it's an MOV, and I can drag it into the timeline and clip it onto the end of this last piece of video, and voila, it's there and it's ready to go. However, it has the same problem as this one. It's not the right aspect ratio. We'd make that change, and of course then it would work. Last but not least, we talked about capturing video. That means if you have a camera that has a tape, you would capture it in. All you have to do is click on the capture window, go to settings, select how you're going to bring it in. So you can choose what kind of device you have. So for example, DV HDV device. So if you have a FireWire, you'd use that. I have a Blackmagic card in my computer, so I can use that as well. And then you also have to choose what type of capture format. So in this case, we're recording high definition, or we're bringing in high definition off of a tape. We click on HDV and we hit OK. And as you can see here, the screen gets set for it. What would happen here is there's a record button. When you get the footage queued up, you'd hit the record button and it would start capturing it, and it would drop it into this Project PD November 23rd in the top corner. All right, that does it for this lesson for today. Thanks so much for joining us, and if you have any questions, we'll address this all in class the next day. Thank you.